Thank you. Thank you, Nelson. I think I first met you actually at Kindred Credit Union, and you were getting ready to go, you and Joy were getting ready to go to Labrador, I believe. So that's quite a few years ago. It's a privilege. It's great to be here with you this evening to talk about our work at Fairview and Parkwood communities. And I must say at the start of this, we are very grateful for the support of the St. Jacob's congregation. Linda Kruger and Earl Martin and Gunther Moore are our delegates. And as Nelson said, Brent Hurst is on our board of directors, and Doug Shantz was the past board chair, and he is on our capital campaign. And I do think Doug is still traveling in the UK. He did warn me that it's midnight over there, so he might not come on the call tonight. And as well, right now, Earl and Alice Martin live in our garden homes at Parkwood. Lita Hurst as well has been at Parkwood for some time, and Marg Metzger just recently moved in. And I do have to say personally that I do miss Agnes Eby, Linda and Karen's mother, who lived at Parkwood for so many years before she passed away. And I will say, as I was putting this together, I do have to thank your pastor, to thank Mark Diller Harder. He participated in our strategic planning. And I'm sure I've missed some connections, but I simply wanted you to know that we really value your involvement at Parkwood. And so tonight I would like to focus on community in my presentation, and so many of you are part of that community. And I'm going to try sharing my screen. Kevin, is that okay? We're okay there? Okay.
Yep, coming through fine.
I'd like to take a look at what community meant some 80 years ago when Fairview began, and 60 years for Parkwood, and what community means today in a world where demographics are changing and needs increasing. And I will spend a bit of time talking about how the board and leadership approached planning for the future, building capacity by way of preparation, and how we're today unleashing that capacity with the 2 new projects. And if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I can try to incorporate, or as Nelson said, we can take some time at the end. And so what I would like to start with actually is the welcome statement of Fairview Parkwood Communities. As a community founded in God's love for all and grounded in faith, each person is valued and respected. We honor the spiritual dimension of the human experience and believe that with love, the extraordinary is possible. I really appreciate this welcome statement. Every time I read it, the first sentence focuses on our history, and the second sentence honors the spiritual dimension, but speaks to the extraordinary being possible. And that's really what's exciting about our work today. In my work, I have the opportunity to think, observe, and ponder what community means. And it's also been a lifetime experience for me. As a kid growing up in the town of Elmira and part of Elmira Mennonite Church, our community was small. But I must say, as a kid, life was as it should be. In our neighborhood, my cousins lived on the same street, as well as kids of all ages who played together and attended each other's birthday parties. And you can see that in the rather blurry, but the center photo. The family doctor lived next door. And when I had my tonsils out at age 5, my dad carried me over to his house for the follow-up visit. So my mother wouldn't need to walk downtown to his office with 3 children in tow, possibly pulling us on a sleigh as it was winter time. On the property behind us, there was an older gentleman and a woman who often invited me to their house for interesting snacks, things that my mother couldn't afford to buy, and on occasion bought me gifts, a new sweater, and a really cool blackboard with chalk for playing school on another occasion. They didn't have grandchildren of their own, and I was the chosen one in my family to be their adopted grandchild. Going a bit further afield, I remember riding my tricycle from across town on summer days to the swimming pool. And this happens to be my sister Linda on that same tricycle. And you'll recognize it was quite a large tricycle. And later, of course, it was handed down to me. I think those swimming pool passes that my mother had were a reprieve every morning and every afternoon from our busy, overcrowded household during the 2 months that school was out. The rule was I had to wait to cross the highway until my sister or older cousin accompanied me across the busy road. If my memory serves me right, every kid in town was at the swimming pool. On the way home on Saturdays, there might be a stop for penny candy at Weber's grocery store. Do you remember those black jawbreakers that changed color? Or possibly a visit to Grandma's house. Grandma Sarah was the greatest grandma ever. She never seemed to mind an unannounced visit. I traveled around town quite efficiently for a kid who was still riding a tricycle. The only day that differed was Sunday. Swimming, of course, was not allowed. My dad drove our well-used vehicle to Elmira Mennonite Church. This was the only day the car moved out of the driveway. Often there was a lineup going up the hill, almost guaranteed it was caused by my grandpa. As kids, we were so embarrassed. He was so slow in his green Studebaker, having driven a horse and buggy all his life. He didn't see a need for speed. As Sunday school kids, we sat in the front of the church with our friends, boys on one side and girls on the other. And after church, sharing a meal with another family, often roast beef, or going home with a friend for the afternoon and being returned at the Sunday night worship service. It was truly a great childhood. And as I look back at those first reflections about community, people cared for and cared about each other. When Dr. Thompson saw me at his house, it was an act of kindness to my mother. When Mrs. Woodall bought me a new sweater, it relieved the family budget just a bit. And when I waited at the highway on my tricycle, although my mother wasn't there to watch, someone else's mother was looking out their kitchen window. And sitting in church, it wasn't uncommon for a parent, not necessarily your own, to move to those front benches and sit between us if we giggled too much during the kneeling prayer. Today, I'm aware that we were a family with a modest income. There was not money to spare, and yet at the time, we didn't think about it because although we were financially poor, we were incredibly rich with community, a people of all incomes, low, modest, and comfortable means. This is not entirely different than Fairview and Parkwood and when it began. There is a lovely history booklet written by Norma Rudy, and there is one statement that really stands out for me. The church had an obligation to the community at large. The report stated, if a service of this kind could be extended to those who are not of our faith, or to non-Christians as well, what a wonderful principle of love for others as given by Jesus himself such an institution would be. Almost 5 years ago, our board and leadership paused to redefine the vision, the values, operating principles, and to prepare a strategic plan as we looked to our purpose for the future. This statement from 1943, which I just read, played an integral part of our conversation, and it still holds true today. We defined our vision to build a community for all faiths, all cultures, all physical abilities, and all financial means. Our values were faith, kindness, truth, excellence, and accountability. And to bring those to life, we articulated operating principles. Nurture mind, body, and spirit. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Be honest and transparent. Embrace a new way of doing things. And be responsible to those entrusted to our care. We developed this 3-year strategic plan with 5 goals, all tied to our principles: spirituality, relationships, communication, growth, and sustainability. For example, our relationship initiative for 3 years was Speak Kindness, which included kindness to self, colleagues, and community. You might ask, well, aren't we innately kind? Yes, but this program really delved deeper, helping us and challenging us to make conscious acts of kindness in all decision making. A second example I will share with you is sustainability, one of our strategic goals. In the 3 years that we looked into building capacity, we really focused as a not-for-profit organization on sustainability. It was important to us that we generate a surplus and that we had reserves in place before we ventured into growth. As we looked to build a community for all, we wanted to ensure balance. Building on that solid foundation, our faith-based values, that was our springboard and still is our springboard today. Defining our differentiators, I would like to preface my comments by saying, one size doesn't fit all. Every senior has their own individual needs and wishes. And in today's world of senior living, there are many models. As Nelson said, I worked at Schlegel Villages and People Care, both part of the private sector. Great family-owned corporations offering both retirement living and long-term care. And in St. Jacobs, as I was thinking about this presentation, you have several models in the village. Heritage House, which is long-term care, St. Jacobs Place, assisted living, and Spruce Lawn, which is independent living and of course expanding. And I understand you had a chance to meet with Dan Dreger previously. I did meet with Dan a few weeks ago, and we like to compare notes on occasion to talk about the Spruce Lawn project and the affordable housing there. What a great addition to St. Jacobs. And it's important for us, each of us, to define our differentiators so that we can help seniors determine which community is right for them. Or perhaps there's a different model. And sometimes there's a different model depending on what stage of life you're at. And so on this slide, our differentiators, we work hard to help seniors live with dignity. We care for the whole person. We provide peace of mind, and kindness is built into our culture. And our commitment as we look to the future, in addition to our vision to build a community for all, we continue to feel very strongly that it is part of our mandate to relieve poverty, to have equitable access and treatment, and that we are a home. And so sustainability is important, and thinking about at being a not-for-profit organization and venturing into 2 very significant projects, we did introduce a business model, business principles into the organization in order to generate a surplus. And then we can make conscious decisions how to reinvest, because we're so privileged in the not-for-profit world. We can reinvest our surplus into our campuses to continue to improve. We've learned a lot from our Fairview campus model, and especially as we were looking at affordable housing. We've had affordable housing at Fairview for decades. And so when we look to growth, our project right now, as most of you are aware, Lita is acutely aware because she's living right there, is the affordable housing. And as well, I will talk a little bit about Fairview and our expansion in long-term care. And then just to mention that we have been awarded in the last couple of years service provider organization with home and community care support services. And so if a senior needs additional care, it can often be paid and provided through government support, but it's our team providing that care. And we started with a pilot program at Fairview, and during COVID, we were able to expand that to Parkwood, and it really has enhanced the care and services that we can provide. And I'll touch on that a little bit more later. And then as well, the living classroom. We hear so much about staffing shortages in healthcare, and that there's going to be continued shortages. We had developed a partnership with the Catholic School Board to provide training on site at Fairview in a living classroom for PSWs. This has been a huge success. And during COVID, it saved us from the staffing crisis many homes were feeling. And so for those of you, I think perhaps all of you have been to Parkwood, but I will show you our amenities. Our amenities are intended to support the social and spiritual aspect of life at Parkwood. And I just wanted to show you a few photos of the existing campus at Parkwood. And we have a lot of men living at Parkwood, and that pool room is incredibly busy all the time. So a few photos of Parkwood, and then just very quickly, a summary of what we are able to offer on our campus. We are a campus that's been growing, and we continue to grow. And if you look across the top, we have long-term care, retirement homes, assisted living, a seniors active living center, which is health and wellness, and as I mentioned, home and community. And then at Fairview, we do have independent living and affordable housing, and those are in green because that is what we're adding at Parkwood. And then if you just look down the left-hand column, it's some of the services and the programs and services that we're able to offer. So as we look at defining our need, I will talk a bit more about the Parkwood project this evening, because that's the one that's closest to you, and that's the one that's really happening right now. And we'll spend some time talking about that as we really determined that this new project, we will be able to continue to relieve poverty, lessen the chronic shortage. Our research really told us that there is a chronic shortage of senior-friendly, affordable housing, and we know that's going to increase. And provide equitable access and treatment, and offer an enriched retirement community for seniors with many backgrounds. And so I am going to have an attempt, and Kevin and I tried this, and some of you have seen this, but I am going to, and our concern was the sounds. So I'm going to see if we can get sound here. Let's give this a try. You're okay? Good.
My name is Anna, and this is my home. I've lived here for 48 years, but ever since my Earl died, it's been really lonely. I don't have many visitors anymore, and some days it feels like my only companion is this isolation I feel. I thought about moving to a retirement home, but with my fixed income, I couldn't find a place I could afford. Thank goodness that has all changed. I recently moved into Parkwood Seniors Community, which is affordable to people like me with modest incomes. Parkwood allows me to retain my independence while being able to use the amenities such as the fitness center, activity room, lounges, and dining room. My life has really improved since I moved in. I've started new hobbies and have made some new friends. It really feels like I'm living again.
There we go. We did okay, Kevin. And so you might ask, is a video like that real? Well, I have to say, when I watch it, I think of my husband Dale's mother, Lorna. Lorna lived at Spruce Lawn for 21 years, loving the village experience. However, in the last week, she did move to Parkwood Retirement Suites as she was feeling isolated at this stage of her life. And she was feeling just a little bit too independent. She needed the peace of mind of a campus where there was a team of staff on site at all times. And so again, there are many models of care and many models of service. And there is certainly an opportunity for all of us to work hard to develop the needs or to meet the needs of seniors. And so this is our project at Parkwood. And as we looked at this new project, we arrived at a mixed housing apartment, and that's different than our Fairview campus. It is 6 stories. There are 90 apartments for seniors of all incomes. There will be 28 one-bedroom units that are affordable housing, 32 one-bedroom units that are more of a modest income for that Miss Senior. We really discovered in our research with the city of Waterloo that one-bedroom apartments are really hard to come by. And then there will be 30 two-bedroom units, which are at regular market rate. And this mix of housing provides a solution that's affordable for those who are otherwise missed and expand our model of care that is also financially viable for the organization. And this is the site plan for those of you who know Parkwood. The aerial view, you have seen that before. And then on the right-hand side, the site plan, the long-term care building, the retirement suites, the garden homes, and then here is the land where the new independent living apartments will actually be located. And here it is, the Delphine and Lloyd Martin apartments. And they are named, of course, for Delphine and Lloyd Martin, and Lloyd lives on our campus at this time. You can see here, while this is an artist rendering, you can see the front entrance showing a view of the dining room. And then there is an outdoor space at the front for outdoor dining, as well as the terrace patio up above. Some of the apartments, they're not all the same. Some of them have balconies, and some of them have the Juliet patio doors. So they're not all the same, but we do have the 28 affordable apartments are integrated throughout the building. And so there's no way of really knowing which of the one bedrooms are the affordable units. And as well, the amenities that are part of the building are intended to complement the rest of the campus, and that people move back and forth freely. I did, for the numbers people, I did decide to throw in a few numbers here, because like everyone else, we have been affected by increased construction costs. You can see that first budget there of 36 million. As we started thinking about the application and did our first costing in September of 2021, and the final budget, which is at 43.2 million. And this was pretty significant. And of course, the part that is for the affordable housing was 11 million, and then increased to 13 million. So the financial implications were significant, and our board came together numerous times for discussion to ensure that this was the right time to take on this significant project. And we always came away with consensus, with unanimous consensus and a strong commitment that this worthwhile work should move forward. And as well, with the interest rate, we know that this summer interest rates have been increasing. And to set the stage here, I had to have just a little bit of fun with this. To set the stage, I will tell you that when we started planning, the interest rate in March of 2021 was 3.65. We were stress tested along the way by CMHC at 4.15. And as the Bank of Canada increased rates this summer, we were very concerned. In our discussion with CMHC, they talked about it going as high as 5%. And so on a mortgage of 30 million, a 1% increase could mean an additional equity injection of well over 3 million. And so the process felt slow, and I have to admit to a few sleepless nights along the way, as I'm sure several of our board members had as well. This week, the rate was finally secured. And this is the slide that I sent to the board of directors when I received notification about the rates. And that was our outcome. We felt incredibly blessed that the rates actually dropped this week a bit further, and the long-term rates. So our rate for 10 years is 3.13%. So given the uncertainty, that has been significant for us, and another indicator to continue to move forward. I will talk just briefly about fundraising. It came next. This was new for us, new for this board, and new for me. And we do receive donations every year. And on occasion, we receive a legacy donation as well. But we have not fundraised since 2004, when we built the retirement suites. And we don't have a fundraising person or a dedicated fundraising team, but we did put together a campaign committee, And our quiet campaign evolved with incredible generosity from our community. We have a loyal community and donors who are deeply committed to the cause, relieving poverty for seniors. And we had a goal of 7.5 million by the time the building is completed, and we have raised 6.6 million of that to date. And we also have received another 1.5 million of federal money along with the mortgage. So we're still working on our fundraising, but certainly have been incredibly pleased with our campaign to date. We've moved to our public campaign to raise that last million, and we did meet with our church delegates on Friday to talk about ways that we could potentially partner with our churches. And both Linda and Gunther were part of that discussion. And so as we think about it, you know, perhaps there are individuals in the congregation or possibilities for a group to come together. And so in spite of all of our challenges and sometimes our questions, are we doing the right thing? We really believe that this is just a wonderful project, and thinking about how it will support seniors for the next 50 years and perhaps longer. And in spite of the challenges, we did on May 26th, we put the shovel in the ground, and this is symbolic of the partnership that came together. Our board chair, Marion, who's on the call, Lloyd Martin, our donor, the mayor of the city of Waterloo, Dave Jarowski, city and regional councilors, Diane Freeman and Jim Erb, our architect, Jason Martin, our contractor, Van Dell, and our volunteer. I can't tell you how much we appreciate this, Fred Sheetal, who is chair of our Land and Building Committee, has made an incredible commitment throughout this. And so this was a pretty exciting day for us, in spite of the fact there were unknowns. And I thought you might like to see a bit more of the building and some of the layouts. This is the university side of the building. And I show this to you because actually there are patios on some of the main floor apartments there. And the rest have Juliet patio doors because they are on that university side. This is the first floor, and as you can see, there are apartments on the first floor, and this is also some of the amenities. We did have and have naming opportunities, and our naming opportunities for each floor, we recognize Vandel Contracting in honor of Richard Stavanis, the second floor in honor of Murray and Yvonne Martin, the fourth floor, Fred and Charlene Sheetal and Sheetal Construction, and the sixth floor in honor of Henry and Edna Shantz family. And definitely a thank you to Doug. And so here you can see the first floor amenities, the dining room, and as well, you can also see the front foyer. There is a store and a cafe as well. And this is the apartment foyer is in honor of Elmer and Eileen Shantz family, including Eileen, Elmer, Bob, Judy, Larry, and Marcia. And the cafe in honor of David and Susan Seiler. So as you can see, we are just incredibly grateful for the contributions that have been made to this project to date. There is an outdoor dining. It looks small here, but it's outdoors outside of the dining room. And people can dine out there as well in honor of Kindred Credit Union. And then on the second floor, there is a terrace lounge. The Bauman Family Foundation. Ferris lives at Parkwood, and this is in honor of Ferris and Laura Bauman. And as we're planning this building, and I show you these different spaces, as I mentioned before, we want to complement the amenities. So for example, someone from this independent apartment might go to the fellowship hall for a worship service, or the retirement suites for fitness and swimming. And a resident from the retirement suites might book this lounge in this building for a family event. And the dining room as well will be a little more restaurant style, so that families and visitors can enjoy that as well. And then this is the outdoor patio, and this is in honor of the board of directors who made it happen and were also very generous with their donations. And this is just right off the lounge space. We have a living classroom in honor of Len and Brenda Jewett, and it's in the lower level, and it continues to be a partnership with Waterloo Catholic School Board. So we're looking at expanding that living classroom to Parkwood as well. This is the affordable one bedroom. This apartment is approximately 630 square feet, and there are several different layouts. I'll show you a few more. To qualify for affordable housing, there is a list of criteria, and there is an income stress test that the household income for a one bedroom must be less than, and I'm not sure, it may have changed a little bit, but 34,000 for a one bedroom unit. And in these apartments, we anticipate that the average rent will be around $740 for the affordable units. We are trying to keep our amenities high end, and to make these beautiful apartments with stainless appliances, and the kitchens will be equipped that although people might choose to go to the dining room for meals, they have a full stove, a microwave, a fridge, and a washer and dryer. Here are a few more one bedroom layouts that you can see there. And then on this one, there's another one bedroom, but there is also a two bedroom. This two bedroom is 865 square feet. And then just a final shot of the building. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that we are anticipating having a healing gardens on site, and we have an annual Walk the Kindness Way event. And I need to mention it tonight because it's actually next weekend, so it's not too late to register, September 24th and 25th. And it is a walk from Parkwood to Fairview on the Walter Bean Trail. And so it's 42 kilometers over the course of 2 days. It starts at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning at Parkwood and finishes on Sunday afternoon. We do let people go home at night in between, but we are raising funds for the healing gardens at both campuses, and this will be an outdoor space where residents, families, and employees can go to spend a quiet visit or time of reflection. There is also a 10-kilometer walk, and that starts on Sunday at 11 o'clock in the morning and finishes with the 42-kilometer walkers at Fairview. So finally, in my last shot of this building, I do want to mention that it is our hope that seniors will also be able to age in place. We think of that a lot more as there is such a need for senior care and services. And because we are a service provider organization, if someone returns from hospital, our care team can provide care. And that will hopefully keep seniors as independent as possible for as long as possible. And so while this building still has a long way to go, this is what we're hopeful it will look like. For right now, I will just show you a few shots of the construction. And these are actually old. It's moving fairly quickly. We seem to be just a little bit ahead of schedule right now. One of our residents watching construction. The concrete, I believe the footings are in and the concrete is now poured. I show you this timeline not to go through it with you, but to look at the end date. It is our hope that we will have residents able to move in January 2024. And we're happy that we're a little bit ahead of schedule right now. And so we hope that that can stay that way. That said, we all know that there have been challenges with building in this time since COVID or during COVID. Before I open it up to questions, I would like to take just a few minutes and show you as well what we're up to at Fairview. This is our Fairview campus, and next year we'll be celebrating the 80th anniversary. It's hard to imagine, and you can see the apartments at Fairview. This is the affordable apartment building at Fairview as well. We have Preston School Apartments, which is off-site. And you know, when you venture into a project like this, a 50-year mortgage seems like an incredibly long time. And yet we are almost in the next few years, we will be able to we will be paying off this mortgage at Fairview. So it really does happen. And it's still a very vibrant building at Fairview. And then as we are looking at Fairview, you can see this is long-term care, the retirement suites, and the villas are to the side, and the Seniors Active Living Center is in the center. And so I show you that first. This is the artist rendering. We have preliminary plans complete. And of course, this is long-term care. So we've been awarded another 108 long-term care beds, recognizing there is an incredible need for long-term care. We have well over 500 people at both campuses waiting for long-term care beds. And I have to tell you, we have a gentleman whose wife has been waiting to move in. He's in the apartments, and she's been waiting to move in as long as I've been at Fairview Parkwood, and she has gone down on the waiting list, not up, due to all of the crisis placements. So we're really hopeful that the expansion of this existing building, and when you look at it, the architect, you can see the brown is the existing building. We will be adding additions to each end of the building, as well as a third floor. And although this is still in early stages, we have been carefully trying to time it with Parkwood's project, so we don't have too many things on the go at the same time. But the ministry is pretty anxious for us to keep this project moving. So it's moving a little quicker than we anticipated it might. And finally, I will just mention, because as part of our strategic plan, really thinking about sustainability as we go forward in the future. We have done quite a bit of refurbishing at Fairview, and I will just show you a few photos of Fairview. The fitness center is now upstairs. We were able to do flooring and refurbish the bowling alley. You can see the classroom there. And, I always say we're not the cruise ship model, but we are a community and with lots of activity and vibrancy. And in conclusion, I will just say this, and I really like this photo, and you'll notice that Lita's on the photo. But when I arrived at Fairview and Parkwood 4.5 years ago, from a great career in the private sector, it truly was a calling. And in my early days, I looked closely for what would be my meaningful work. And this photo is symbolic of that. One day, as I walked through the dining room at our Fairview campus, in the independent living dining room, I was struck by the vibrancy, or should I say fellowship, our Mennonite word, that was happening in that dining room. I stopped to chat with residents and the team who were serving, and I moved about the room. And when I did so, I had an opportunity to observe the room. And there was actually a moment when I paused and I realized that race, religion, financial status did not exist as residents broke bread together. I had no idea who the senior was who was receiving financial assistance or what their religion was. They were all part of community. And many of the elders in the dining room might have been missed in another setting. And so for me, this was Fairview Parkwood's niche, a home and a community where every person has a seat at the table. And you will notice there is one empty chair at the table. So thank you for letting me share with you. And I've taken a bit more time than intended, and I will just stop sharing if anyone has any questions.
Well, thank you so much, Elaine. And yes, let's throw it open for questions. Feel free. Elaine is eager to answer those questions.
Well, if I'm capable of answering
I'm
them.
sure you will.
If you'd like to ask something, just unmute yourself and maybe share your name so I can find you, and I'll add you to the spotlight there with Elaine.
Let me break the ice, Elaine. I'm just curious if I was hearing correctly and viewing the photos correctly. The apartment block at Parkwood that is being under construction is not connected with either of the other buildings there at Parkwood. Is that correct?
It is an independent building. It is part of the campus, and it has been designed that you can go out of the independent living building and cross the driveway. We had all kinds of discussions about a bridge to connect it, going underground. That wasn't possible because of the services. And then as well received some feedback that while those who are independent and wishing to have that independence, that not having it connected was okay. So we've tried to make it as accessible as possible, but no, it is not connected. A little bit different than the suites and long-term care.
Thank you.
Hi, Elaine, it's Marcia.
Hi, Marcia.
Hi. In your presentation, when you were talking more in the Fairview end of things, what was the number that you threw, that you put out there of like it was a 500 number of residents on a wait list. I don't think I heard that right.
So in long-term care, Fairview is the project where we're adding long-term care beds. And the board really talked about it at both campuses, what the project should look like. And we decided at Fairview to apply for additional long-term care beds because there is an incredibly long wait list for long-term care. And there are well over 500, and they're just not taking any more on our wait list right now. 500 residents or 500 people in the community waiting to come into our long-term care that, it's their choice. They would like to come there. And it's just not possible. In the last 3 years, we really seem to only be able to get crisis placement. And so the people that are on our campus who live there and are part of that campus often aren't able to get into our long-term care. So we try and help them to stay in the affordable housing, independent living, or the retirement suites until they can access our long-term care. But it seems such a shame every time someone has to move. So we're really hoping at Fairview it'll help the flow somewhat. But it's 500 people and there's 108 new beds. So I don't know if that's answered your question, but it's discouraging in long-term care in the province of Ontario right now.
Thank you. I just wasn't I caught that correctly, but thank you. And while I'm here, I'm just going to say thank you for all the work you do and the generosity and genuineness that you fill that role. Thank you.
You're very kind, Marcia. It's actually a privilege to be in this role.
Sue Shantz here, Nelson.
Mhm.
It's Sue. Thank you, Elaine. That was a really, really good presentation. Just a couple of questions around the independent apartments at Parkwood. Do you have a wait list for those?
We have started, and I say a wait list, it's not full. We have started a wait list, just started in the last month or so. And now that the building has begun, we are going to, in the next month or two, set it up so people can start to select apartments. But we still need to work with the region, and we haven't started to determine who will be the people that will qualify for the affordable. But certainly we are taking names. And there's been considerable interest in the 2-bedroom apartments as well.
So you had mentioned 28 units as affordable, and then you had said a number of other units for reasonable. How many in the reasonable category would there be?
They are 1-bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not, all of us think that we would like 2 bedrooms, and but 1-bedrooms, we learned in Waterloo, are incredibly hard to come by. So we decided to have more 1-bedrooms, and so there's 32 of those, and then 30. It's kind of 30, 30, 30, but it's 28, 32.
And do you know what the rate will be for those?
I don't have the final rate yet. But we should be able to have that shortly. We did budget based on today, and but given the fact that we're still a little bit of time out, I don't have those finalized, but should shortly. And you can certainly call us at any time to get those rates. And we'll try and keep our churches informed as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Observations?
I'm sure you hear so much about long-term care and senior living on the news, and there's been a lot of conversation in the news with regards to those who are in hospital, patients in hospital who need alternate level of care. And this week, there's been a lot of discussion about individuals needing to take a long-term care bed in southwestern Ontario, 70 kilometers away from perhaps the home of their choice. And certainly that is concerning for seniors. And we're concerned, and through our associations, we're advocating. We don't think it will affect us that much because our beds are full and we have wait lists. But for that senior who perhaps has to move at a distance, what is unclear is how quickly they'll be able to come back. And so we had a person who did, as I mentioned, accept a bed over 4 years ago, thinking they would get their bed of their choice when one came available at Fairview, and that still hasn't happened. So there's such a need in the province, and everybody's working hard to do the best they can to provide care and services. But it's what we're encouraging people to do is, if someone can, if they can move into the retirement suites with assisted living and have support there through home and community care support services, perhaps they can do that as an alternative to having to go at a further distance. So there's always, I guess what I say to people is, it's important to have conversation if you are in a position where you're thinking about accepting a place to go, or also thinking about supporting a parent, that it's worth having a good conversation about it, because sometimes there's things that that we can do and that other senior living operators can do as well.
Nelson here again. Elaine, I wonder if you could provide some counsel to this group. We're mainly retired seniors. As we think about the future and perhaps needing to leave our homes and moving into other forms of supportive care, what is the process like? How many years in advance does one need to get one's name in somewhere to feel comfortable that if a crisis would occur, there would be some chance of getting in?
Mm-hmm. So for long-term care, you cannot put your name on a list until you need that care and until you qualify. So that makes it difficult. But we always suggest to people, and I guess in the research that we've done and the work that I've done, and again, I'll say that this is my opinion based on the work that we do, that if someone, an individual, can think about whether they would like to stay in their own home, whether they would like to age in place in independent living, whether you prefer to be in a retirement home and where there's staff all the time, to think about that ahead of time and look at what the opportunities are. And when we see people is usually when there's been an event or a change in life. And if you can plan for that ahead of time, it's incredibly important. And I really, I really do like the fact that we're able to provide home and community care support services. And for those of you in St. Jacobs, we've actually, they have been talking to us about expanding it out into the St. Jacobs community, which would be great. And then if you stayed in your own home and you needed care, perhaps you could get some care there. But for someone else, and I show you the amenities of the campus, I have to say, since we've been able to open things a little more after COVID, the joy and the fellowship and the fun and the camaraderie is fantastic. So being part of a community, if that's something that you like, it's good to think about it sooner rather than later. And if there's a home or a community that you would like, for example, in retirement or independent living, you can put your name on the list. But if your name comes up, you don't have to accept it. You can keep your name on the list. It's only in long-term care that if someone is going to long-term care, they're required to accept it. Or their name goes off the list. So, it doesn't hurt if it's something that you think you might want. So I'm not sure I have wise counsel. All of us think about it. And again, one size doesn't fit all, but it's good to think about it. It's good to have conversation, and it's good to tour. There are opportunities to tour various places and think about where you would be comfortable to live.
Thank you.
Hi, Linda Kruger. Thank you, Elaine. That was excellent. Very helpful. Two questions that I've heard recently, and one just came to my mind as you were speaking about being able to decline offers in assisted living and have your name stay on the list. The first one is, does your name go to the bottom of the list or does it stay at the same place? And then my second question is, what parking is going to be available for the new units at Parkwood?
Okay. Well, I don't know if everyone has the same model with retirement living or independent living, but and I'm not speaking about the affordable apartments, but otherwise your name stays on the list and it does not go to the bottom of the list. It stays there because sometimes people will say, you know what, I'm not ready, but I'll be ready 6 months from now or a year from now. And sometimes people say to us, don't call me, we'll call you when we're ready. That's fine. So there's various ways of doing that. With regards to parking, the new building is going to have underground parking as well. And as well, we have added quite a bit additional parking on the site. And it's quite amazing to me how much of a difference that has made already. So there will be 2 options. Thanks, Linda. And Linda, just appreciate your support as a delegate. Thank you for that.
Last call. I'm going to give Brent Hurst a last opportunity, last word, but it occurred to me that, sorry, Brent, we should have offered Marion an opportunity to say hi or something if she wishes, if she's still on the call. And then Brent is going to close out for us. There she is.
Oh, thank you, Nelson. I just want to say again, and join with Elaine in thanking St. Jacobs for your support and your interest, and even having Elaine come and share tonight. It does show ongoing interest and support for the work that we're doing. And we are, as a board, we're extremely pleased with the way this has developed and sort of and the many answers to prayer that we've had over this project and also through COVID. It's been a very, very tough 2.5 years, and Elaine has led the organization through that, but there's been many prayers offered, not just by the board, but by families and in churches too. And so we want to thank you for your part in that and for your ongoing support. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Brett?
Thanks, Marion. Elaine, thank you. I have a little bit of insight into your schedule and your tasks list. So we really appreciate your time, especially on a Sunday evening when you probably have other things to do, but appreciate the time you put into the presentation and the time that you spent with us tonight. Since I've only joined the board the last year, and it became clear that it was quite a larger and more complex and complicated organization than I had expected. And that means, the strategic planning you were talking about and the financial decisions and project decisions and all kinds of things, which we need to do, and we do. But I guess what struck me, and I think what you portrayed well tonight, is that at the core of it is this desire to have a caring and kind community. And I guess publicly want to thank you again, echo Mush's comments too, that you and your leadership team and the staff and the board are doing a great job. It's like any other community. It's not a perfect community, but we show up every day and you show up every day and strive towards that. So I really appreciate that. And again, thanks for the time tonight. The projects are challenging and exciting to be part of. And I think maybe Doug's on the call, but he might have fallen asleep if it's midnight. But just to remind people that you'll probably hear a bit more about the fundraising opportunities over the next year. I did stick a little thing on the St. Jacobs Facebook page about the walk that I will participate in. So if you want to support the healing gardens that way, you can do that. And I'm not pushing you to go visit my mom, but she has the best view of this construction right now. She's got 2 windows, one out the one side, one out the other, and keeps pretty good tabs of it. So you can always take a visit and see what's going on. So thanks, Elaine, and looking forward to continue to work with you.
Thank you, Brent, and thank you, Nelson, for inviting me to come this evening.
Well, true confessions. It was Brent's encouragement that put this together. So we're glad to cooperate with that. And all right, we'll call that an evening. And thank you again, Elaine. And thank you everyone for joining. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Night.
Good night.